What is going on, Union family? I hope you are having a great week so far. If you are brand new to this channel called We the Union, we are all about providing premium Union coverage, adding value, and connecting the team and the fans always. And so welcome. This week we are going to be addressing something that came out earlier. Transfer Market had talked about a transfer rumor linking MIKAEL UHRE on a move over to Germany. But before we hop into it, if you're brand new, please consider dropping a like or subscribing to the channel. That way you can be included in all of the news as it comes forward. And so this week, if you've been living under a rock or maybe not, we had seen this, that UHRE was linked to a move either to Bochum or Werder Bremen. And so what we're going to do is jump right in, check out the articles, and see what it might mean for both the Union and for the Danish striker. So in front of us right now, we have where the reports really stemmed from. Like I said, Transfer Market had dropped it earlier in the week, and I do have to say, much with most Union transfers, we have to take it with a grain of salt. But what is important to note here is that the international news media was all over it. To start, we see here from sport.de, there is an article fully in, I believe it's German. I'm pretty sure it's German. And I can't read German, but thank God for Google Translate kind of saving the day here. But what I wanted to do is I translated the whole article. We're going to read it, break it down, and then figure out what it could mean. And so what we see here, and I'll read it, you can read along on the screen as well. It says, there is a possibility that the Danish, I don't know what Klipser is. If anybody knows what that is, feel free to drop that in the comments below. In January, could move for free of charge. One of these leagues is the US MLS, which is currently in the final stages of the 2024 season. Dozens of players of the Major League Soccer are free from the first. There was a little bit of a translation gap there, but that's what that means. January without a contract, including the Danish MIKAEL UHRE of Philadelphia Union. So this is interesting. Immediately, a little bit of an asterisk or a flag pops up because MIKAEL UHRE did trigger his season-ending performance clause, which means that he is technically, by all measures, a Union player for the next year. It would not be necessarily reflected on other sites that would include that information as of yet until the details of the next contract have been officially signed and locked in. But I want us to kind of keep a pin in that because we're going to come back to how that may factor in later. As reported by the Union Podcast, shout out to Paige Hurley and everybody at the Union Podcast, the club reportedly does not withdraw its option for the one-year extension in order to sign a so-called designated player. Background, they do a little bit of why the MLS does that, how they use it, and all of that. And so if you look at the second column right now of translation, it says UHRE is one of the lucky ones in Philadelphia. According to reports, he's officially earning roughly about $2 million every year. We know that. We'll come back to that as well. Since he arrived in the U.S., he's now 30 years old, has scored double digits in every season. His place could still go to a younger one. That is probably true for most players at this moment. Rumors of interest from Bundesliga. They talk about how at one point there was even interest in Julian Carranza, which I think Werder Bremen, if you remember last year at the town hall meeting, or earlier this season rather, they had mentioned that Werder Bremen was very interested in Julian, and he almost went and then pulled the plug with hours to spare while he was getting ready to board the plane. That's directly from Ernst Tanner, actually, which was shocking at the time. And so they go on to say a couple of things, basically that one of the players on one of the Bundesliga teams and MIKAEL UHRE share a manager or an agent, and so there could be some involvement behind the scenes that kind of makes that happen. And so what I really want to look at here is a few questions. First one being, is this a good or a bad thing? So we're going to kind of suspend for the moment the thought that will it or won't it happen, only because Transfer Market, I believe at time of recording, is giving it less than a 20% chance of happening currently for either one of those teams. And actually, since 2 days ago, I think that number has maybe even shrunk slightly, or at least disappeared. I think there's just like a question mark where the prediction used to be. But what I want us to look at here is the Union in a position, are we in a position to go without him in 2025? And so what I was doing was some digging because the forward position in the past has been a very unique dilemma for the Union, specifically as it pertains to our outside signings. Since what I have here is really a year-to-year synopsis of his performance, and so we see him coming over from a foreign league. I don't know exactly where that's from, Brøndby IF, but what we can see here is sort of a gradual decline in his play. And again, he's only 30 years old, so he has years left in him. Barring any unfortunate or unforeseen injuries. But what I want to make note of is how you see his play in 2020, 2021, 20 goals. That's incredible. That is close to some of the bigger guys in MLS, what they're slinging right now. Even close to the Bentekes and all things like that. You see 2021, less games. I'm not sure if that's due to injury or if somebody had beat him out in a spot. But 14 goals in 26 games, by all accounts, that's great. You see even his match ratings, and by the way, this is courtesy of FootMob. What you see here is his match rating is still above 7, which is considered very healthy in most circles. 2022, he comes over to the Union, 7.1. New team, getting acclimated, 13 goals in 30 games. And here is where we start to see a little bit of a decline. And many of us may want to attribute that 2022-2023 form dip because of the surgence of Julian Carranza. Basically, Julian was a revelation as a striker, much like Ty Baribo this year, and was just kind of taking over. But if we zoom in here to 2023 and 2024, what we see is 2 spells of similar production from the year prior, but with nearly 10 to 20 more games played. We see in 2023, 49 games, 11 goals, 6.8 match rating. That's a small step down, or probably a bigger step down. 2024, it comes back a little bit where he's in 41 games and 13 goals with a 6.8 match rating. So back to the question of, can we afford to go without him in 2025? Listen, if the front office is spent on, we're going to go young, we're going to go whatever, and we want to bring up Marcus Anderson, you look at this production and you start to question whether or not MIKAEL Uhre is worth a $2 million price tag. And I don't, let me preface that really quick too, because I don't want anyone to think I'm a hater of him. I really am not. At the beginning of the season, I was admittedly not a hater, but I was skeptical as the year went on, and especially when I went to see the Union play the New York Red Bulls in Newark, or in Harrison rather, and he went off that game. It was a pleasure to watch, man. He was on, and so when he is on, he is absolutely on. But when he is not, he can be kind of almost ineffective at times, or invisible. And so I brought up this chart for comparison's sake, and this is our striker comparison. This is courtesy of Who Scored. And what you're seeing here is a list of our prior strikers in maybe the last 7 odd years. You see MIKAEL Uhre, you see Julian Carranza, you see CJ Sapong, and even Kasper Shibilko. Something that I think is very important to know is that MIKAEL Uhre has underperformed all of these strikers that we've had in the past 7 seasons. And I left out Ty Baribo only because Ty is a smaller sample size. He just kind of got started. And you may be thinking too, okay, listen, in 2024 wasn't MIKAEL's greatest year. Why don't you include his greatest year? I included MIKAEL's current year because we're paying his current salary. And you see these 3 players, Carranza, Sapong, and Shibilko, at their quote-unquote career years with the Union, that were making significantly less than the $2 million price tag that Uhre makes. And so if we're looking at this purely based on production as the x-axis and salary as the y-axis, you're going to see very quickly that he does not stack up too well with these guys. And so you look at even CJ Sapong, one of the most frustrating strikers. I had seen so many games with CJ in person. And man, there were moments that I was ripping my hair out, like completely ripping my hair out. But you look at his production from 2017 rather, 16 goals, 4 assists in 30 matches. And of course, you compare that to even MIKAEL Uhre's year this year, 10 goals, 5 assists. It's not good enough there. Carranza, 14 goals, 6 assists. That's in 2022 on 28 games. And you have Kasper Shibilko, who honestly sort of reminds me of MIKAEL Uhre a little bit. He could get really hot. and then at other moments he kind of tapers off. And so you look at this and you think, man, he is in some cases 2 to 3 times more expensive than these other guys in the Union have had, and his production does not stack up. In fact, he doesn't lead in any category from either 3 of these players. And so I start to wonder, what could it mean if we ended up letting him go? I'm going to have to do another video at some point that breaks down, I think I've cracked the code on what the formation for the 2025 Philly Union should be if everybody stays. That's going to be another video because I actually think there's a ton of merit here. But I want to just kind of finish up this video with this thought here. We have a prediction here. I'm thinking most likely Uhre is going to leave this year. Now, this does not mean I'm calling that. What I mean is, if we do not, as a front office, want to create another scenario what happened with Carranza, then we should probably think about selling him now. Because if we do trigger his 1-year clause, whether he's in the plans of Ernst Tanner and the Union or not, you've got 365 days to capitalize on his €4 million transfer value. And if you wait, the longer you wait, the less your leverage and the less his value is going to go up. And so from a business perspective, I think that it would be smart, if he is not in the plans, to let him walk, or rather to transfer him away. Likely, I think, and maybe I probably should have had these flipped, but most likely I do feel like he would stay throughout the season. Excuse me, frankly, because there's not really many depth options other than Marcus Anderson, Baribo, which Baribo's not depth. He's in the starting 11, but least likely, and I'm praying that this is least likely. Is that they would let him go halfway through the season in the summer window, very similar to what they did with Julian Carranza. That would mean that we do not get a high value for him, or if anything, that would mean we'd be without a player. And so, yeah, I'm not 100% sure what this would look like, but I do think that if there is a reality where we go without him and sell him, I would be in favor of it, especially because Baribo has kind of beaten everyone out. Baribo is putting up the same numbers with almost half the games in the season. And so I would be super, super in favor of if there is a couple of million transfer waiting for him to do it, waiting for him to be sent away, to bring in somebody else who might be able to add some value to the team. One other thought, too, is MIKAEL Uhre would need to want this to happen because he is under contract for 1 more year. And by later on in the reports, they also listed that he probably wouldn't receive the same salary, probably something less than what he makes currently if he were to go over to either one of Bochum or Werder Bremen. And so, in any sense, that is kind of where we leave off. And so, hey, I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video and supporting the channel. Please feel free to click the link tree bio, in my bio rather. That way you can check out all of our Instagram and X and Blue Sky, and there's a free Union fan quiz for you to take to find out what kind of Union fan you are. Some links to old episodes, things that I've been able to hop on with other podcasts in the past. And so feel free to go check that out. If you're somebody who's wanting to support in another way, there's a Buy My Coffee link. I'm usually editing these videos either early in the morning. It's actually currently like 7 a.m. right now before work. Then feel free to check that out too. But listen, thankful for you. I hope you have a great day. And we're going to keep reporting all the things this offseason, so make sure that you stay tuned for all of that. Until next time, with brotherly love, this is We the Union.